Hello everyone and welcome back. So continuing on in this scope tool projectors video, Lee is going to be moving into some code that is going to enable us to move our projector around. Lee?
Yep, we're going to start moving this thing around. Though I do want to point out that Jason reminded me about the border bitmaps button, which is something I never use for the most part because I'm always using texture atlases, which doesn't work very well in texture atlases, but with a single texture like this, it does a really good job of cleaning up that extra part so you don't get the overshoot. So we'll turn that on. That takes care of that too. So thanks for pointing that one out.
No worries. I understand about your atlases. I mean, that is generally how you work, and I wasn't going to say anything in the last video.
Oh, that's all right.
But okay, so getting this guy to move around. So some coding now?
Do we have to code?
Yeah.
We can't just push a button and have it magically happen.
No, come on. What is it there? 5:07 your time? Let's do it. Code.
Code, more code. There's lots of code to be had, that's for sure. All right, so what do we need to do to be able to move our character around? Actually, it's not too bad, but it is something that we haven't done yet in the R&D. At least I don't think so. I do know that those who have gone through our character control videos have messed with a technique similar to this. And the technique that I'm referring to is raycasting. So what we're going to do, man, I closed the wrong one too, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Let's go into scripts. No, not scripts, code base, demos, sculpting, train sculptor. There we go. This is what I need. All right. Now, we need to be able to move our sculpt tool brush around. Now, the way I want to do this is going to be by toggling in and out of our sculpt tool, which will handle how to toggle that in a later video. But once we're in our sculpt tool, the behavior I would like to do is that as you move your cursor around your screen, whatever it's pointing on is going to be where the sculpt tool is going to be drawn. To do that, we're going to have to rely on some raycasting. And we're going to handle that part of it in our handle sculpt tool method. So inside of handle sculpt tool, we're going to need to do some raycasting, but when we're dealing with raycast, we're looking for a piece of information that's returned by that raycast. That info is held in a structure called raycast hit. So I'm going to create one of those, and I'm going to call it hit info. So this is what's going to hold all my information from that raycast. Now, I also need array itself. If I'm going to cast array, I need array. So the array that I'm going to use is going to be based off calling our camera main camera, and it, luckily enough, has a method called screenPointArray. So all I need to do is pass in our input.position, or mouse position, not just position, mouse position. So that will take our mouse position, pass it to our camera's screenPointArray, and it will return us an array that points to that position in three-dimensional space where our mouse cursor is. Very handy, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So from here, we need to do a couple of tests. Well, we're only going to do one test for now, but later we'll have to come back and add some more tests. The very first test that we need to do is going to find out whether or not that ray actually hits anything. So we're going to do if physics raycast, and we need to pass it a ray. So we're going to say, hey, do a raycast with this ray, and if pass me back out the information in the hit info variable that I sent you. So if it's hit an array, it's going to, or if the array hits anything, it's going to do whatever's inside. If not, it just kicks out and we carry on about our way. So if we've hit something now, what I want to do is set our position of our tool to be equal to our hit point or hit info dot position or point. So our hit info's point contains the point in 3D space that the ray hit, and we're going to save that inside of position. Then we're going to take that information and we're going to take our brush object, its transform, and its position of that transform, and we're going to set it equal to a new vector 3. We're going to set the x component to be position.x. Its y position, I'm going to pick 5,000. And its hit point, or not hit point, but its y component will be position.y. Now the reason I chose 5,000 for a y is I want to make sure that our projector is going to be sufficiently above the terrain and everything else such that our terrain will never get higher than the projector. Because if you remember when we were playing with the projector, moving it along the y-axis, when it's below the terrain, everything above it doesn't see the brush. So we've got to make sure that the brush is always higher than everything else. And because I know that our max height is set currently to 1,024, 5,000 is sufficiently higher than that. And if Jason ever starts to play with it, it should be higher than any of his mountains that he likes to have as well. So, unless he's going really crazy with some, giant mountains, but they'll just look like spikes anyways. So I'm pretty sure he won't go too nuts.
Nah, we'll be good. We'll be good.
So, all right. The other thing that I need to adjust for this to work, because we're setting the position so high, is if you remember, we have that frustum, which means that once we're outside of that frustum, it's not going to draw the projector. So because we're so high up in the air, we've got to make sure that our far clip plane for our projector is sufficiently far enough away to still hit our terrain. So if we take our projector, we'll set its far clip plane, and because we can go less than 0, and we've got 5,000, 10,000 should be significantly far enough to cover it. I also want to set our orthographic to be to true. Because of the large distances that we're positioning our brush object and our projector, if we're to leave it at regular projection, there's going to be a very large icon, and we don't really want that. We want to be able to control it without having to worry about perspective. So we're going to set its orthographic to true. And for now, let's go ahead and set the projector dot orthographic size, and we'll set this to be equal to 10. Now, this won't do anything because we're never calling this method. ReSharper's kind enough to tell us that because it's all grayed out. But I'm going to take this method, I'm going to go up to update. We know update's being called because we set it in train demo to be called. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that method call inside of update. So every update our handle sculpt tool is going to be called. So if everything works, we can go over to Unity. Hit play. And, well, it drew. Can you move around? It doesn't like me. Particularly moving your mouse around the screen.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, it's captured it. There's something else that I need to handle. Okay, there you go. I wanted to show that the tool itself is kind of moving around.
Okay.
So is it tracking with?
Well, you can
mouse?
move your mouse now, as long as you
No,
don't click. No,
no, it
it's
won't. It won't pick up mine.
oh, you're seeing the exact same thing. All right, let me grab control. I'm gonna
Yep.
move down towards me.
Okay, so it's not
Ooh.
moving towards. Here, let's do this.
Okay.
I've got to hit escape so I can do this. Okay. So it's just going left and right.
So left and right, yes.
Okay.
If I push up and down,
Yeah,
that's
it's not tracking right. All right. Hold on a sec.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's way up there.
Oh, it's up there, all right.
All right, let's try some stuff. All right. So we'll go back into code. And for now, let's drop this a little bit lower. I know we'll have to deal with this later, but I can set it down to 50 to play with that. So position X, position Y. No, that's going to be 1 right there.
Yep.
So we've got to fix that. So we can leave that back up at 5,000 and build that out.
Yeah,
Back
that
over.
could be enough right there to
Yep.
make all the difference. Yep. Now it feels right.
Right. Cool. All right. So now we have the ability to move everything around. But we still have some issues because it's one hell of a paintbrush right now. I mean, to the point where you can even paint your character red with it.
Da-da-da.
So we want to go ahead and set some things up so the terrain sculpting brush only affects the terrain. Now, I don't want to have to do this inside of the inspector and drag and drop like we were doing with the blob shadows. And frankly, we can't because the sculpt tool doesn't exist until the moment we start playing the game.
Right. Were these, by the way, the functionality things you were referring to for the next
That
video?
we're going to start covering in the next video. Yep, I'm
Okay.
getting ready to segue into that video.
Oh, okay.
So that is one of the things that we need to deal with. We also need to deal with handling mouse capturing and toggling, and that'll be its own video. So we're just now starting to get into some of the functionality part of it. We've got the base part of it. Now in the next video, we're going to start adding some more functionality, and each step of the way is going to be adding more and more functionality.
Okay. Awesome. Well, with that, that is going to wrap up this video. Thanks a lot.